Welcome to the ninth session of the chapter Ecosystem. In this module, we will be learning about ecological succession, two types of ecological succession, primary and secondary successions. The term succession, it means the order in which or the condition in which one person after the other succeeds to a property. In terms of ecology, ecological succession means one species after the other species who succeeds in a particular habitat. And that is the meaning of the word ecological succession, who succeeds. It can be defined as a series of changes that occurs in an ecological community over time. Over time, what all changes takes place in an ecological community, and that is called as ecological succession. It is a study and a gradual change in a species of a given area with respect to a changing environment. According to the change in an environment, there is a steady and a gradual change in a species. That is, the species keeps on changing one after the other according to the change in a given environment. And this change is predictable and it is an inevitable process of nature, as all the biotic components have to keep up with the changes in our environment. To be very precise, if there is any change in our environment, all the biotic components which is inhabiting a particular habitat will have to keep in pace with the change taking place in our environment. And this changes which takes place one after the other, and this very steady and a gradual change in which the species keeps up changing with the change in an environment. The aim of this ecological succession is to reach a climax community. The climax community means the last community which has attained equilibrium with that ecosystem. So the aim of this ecological succession is to reach a climax community which has attained equilibrium with that ecosystem. And in this attempt to reach this equilibrium, some species keep on increasing, whereas some species will decrease. And ultimately, what happens? It attains the climax community. The entire sequence of communities, that is one community after the other, all this sequence of communities that successively change in a given area in a particular time over a period of time is called as a sphere. So the entire sequence of communities that successively changes in a particular area is called as a sphere. And the individual community, the individual transitional community is called as a seral stage. So one after the other, there is one seral stage after the other seral stage, and all the seral stage together can be considered as a sphere which ultimately reaches a climax community. There are two types of succession, primary and secondary. The primary succession, it takes place in a lifeless area where that area is not having soil, or it takes place in an area where the soil is not able to sustain life. So imagine where there is no soil. First, the soil has to be formed. So we know the plant, when it was first formed, it had no soil on earth. The earth was full of rocks. Then the rocks has to be broken down. It had to be broken down by microorganisms and erosion processes, and which ultimately led to the formation of soil. Then the soil became the platform for life. It began with the foundation of plant life. The plant life, then the presence of plant in the soil helped in the survival of different animals. We know all the other organisms are dependent upon plants. So once a plant was formed, it led to the survival of different animals, and slowly it progressed from primary succession, one seral stage after the other seral stage, and ultimately led to the formation of a climax community. If suppose this primary ecosystem which is formed as a result of primary succession where no soil existed, and if this ecosystem is destroyed, then secondary succession takes place in that area. So primary succession takes place in area where there is no soil. So it will take a long time for the establishment of a climax community. When that particular ecosystem is destroyed, suppose a forest has been destroyed as a result of fire, what happens? The entire ecosystem is not existing. But what is there over there? What is present if a forest is completely destroyed as a result of fire? That will be soil. So the secondary cessation occurs when the primary ecosystem gets destroyed and where there is soil which is already existing over there, and that soil gets recolonized. Okay, it gets again inhabited by plants, then it is followed by the survival of animals, so it gets recolonized after the destruction. And such succession which takes place in an ecosystem which was destroyed by natural calamities, and the succession which is taking place over there in a destroyed ecosystem is called as a secondary succession. So in there, as the soil is present, small plants emerge first, which is followed by larger plants, and the larger plants later form trees, which block the sunlight, and this changes the structure of the organisms below the canopy. We know canopy is the entire cover which is formed as a result of trees. So the organism inhabiting under the canopy it keeps on changing, and ultimately a climax community arrives. So in this module, we studied about what is ecological cessation. Ecological cessation is a very slow, inevitable and gradual change in which one species after the other species keeps on changing with the changing environment. Ultimately, a climax community has arrived. So the climax community is in equilibrium with that environment. So it is of two types, primary and secondary. Primary takes place in areas where there is no soil. So the soil has to be formed first. So this type of cessation takes a longer period of time for a climax community to be attained. When this climax community is destroyed by fire or any other natural calamity, then the cessation which takes place in that destroyed ecosystem is called as a secondary cessation. As soil is already present, this type of cessation takes place at a faster rate when compared to the primary cessation, and it reaches a climax community. Thank you.